Hey folks, here's one that you probably aren't going to hear a lot about, especially on channels like CNN, and for sure you won't hear about them on Fox. If you're not aware of it, and you should be, the Republicans on the very first day that they were in session tried to get rid of the Ethics Committee, which is an independently run portion of Congress. It serves to investigate complaints on the various congressmen on their activities, and they have to make sure that they're, within the rules. Okay, so accepting free trips and stuff like that, they cannot do. Well, guess what? Now that one has gone by the boards, they've decided to institute a rule whereby if they don't like something that a federal employee does, they can reduce that federal employee's salary to $1. Okay, and they have stuck that in a bill, and we as the people need to contact our various Congress people and tell them that they're full of crap and they need to vote against that particular bill wherever that feature is. Now, I say that because, let's say, and Ari Melber is going to give the examples, that in the State Department, if they don't like the fact that people are working on women's rights internationally, all they have to do is get a list of the names of the employees that are working on that and reduce their salaries to $1, which is in effect firing them, because they're not going to obviously work for $1, they're going to leave. If they don't like something that's going on with the EPA, as far as climate change or whatever is concerned, and the scientists issue some kind of report, they don't even have to issue a report, they just don't like the fact that they're working on climate change, they would just get a list of these people that are working on climate change, reduce their salaries to $1, and guess what? They're going to leave as well. Same thing in the Department of Justice. They don't like the fact that you have a bunch of attorneys that are working on civil rights, discrimination, etc. All they have to do is reduce their salaries to $1, and guess what? You no longer have a civil rights division within the Department of Justice because all the attorneys will leave. You talking about a rough couple of years, because if this thing passes, they have quote unquote set it up as a test program to run for 1 year, but you know damn well that after the year's up, they're basically just going to continue to extend it until they no longer have the votes to extend it. So the Democrats would have to get on their JOBs and take over one of the houses of Congress in order to stop this. Anyway, here's the story done by Ari Melber on MSNBC.
Republican House's attempt to gut ethics rules got lots of attention, leading to a dramatic backtracking when Congress was sworn in Tuesday. But Republicans pushed another plan into the rules package that did pass this week, a rule that gives Congress the power to directly target and cut salaries for individual agencies and employees separate from the annual budget process. Now, why is that important? Well, it means that even if there's general funding for, say, the Environmental Protection Agency, Congress then has extra power to come back around and cut money from specific parts of the EPA. Now, Republicans say there's nothing nefarious about targeted spending cuts. They note that while Congress hasn't had this power since the early 80s, it was used for decades at earlier points in history.
I think it gives us an opportunity really thinking about what this election was about, that they want to see change. And this is a big rule change inside there that allows people to get at places they hadn't before. And we put it in there to last for 1 year, and we'll look back at it again a year from now to see how well it worked in others. But it'll be a nice pilot program for change.
And sure, on paper, this is just a one-year option to target funding. But let's also connect the dots here in this Trump transition era. This rule comes right after reports that Trump's aides were specifically requesting names of people at the Energy Department who work on climate change. And separate reports that Trump aides also asked the State Department for details on jobs and programs that were specifically devoted to advancing gender equality. So if you combine one, a new rule that can cut salaries for specific workers, and two, new lists of employees working on issues like climate change or gender equality, you have the ingredients for a chilling effect on federal workers, or worse, the ingredients for a purge. So to the rule makers getting all these ingredients together, please know, we see you. And this new rule still requires approval from the entire House and Senate to become operative. Joining us now for more context, Julian Epstein, a former chief minority counsel of the House Judiciary Committee, very experienced in these matters. What do you see happening here?
We'll talk about the gang that can't shoot straight, Ari. First, we have this week a Republican Congress that tries to exempt itself from the ethics rules. The very first thing it does. The second thing it does is to try to take us back to a very dark period in American history, the McCarthy era, where Congress could punish ordinary Americans if they didn't conform to the hardline views of the ruling party. In this case, it would be civil servants that wouldn't conform to the hardline views of the Republican Party.
So you're worried this rule could be abused to target federal workers?
That's the purpose of it. This goes back to its so-called the Holman Rule in the late 1800s. It's been tested. It's been declared unconstitutional as a bill of attainder by the federal courts. But that's exactly what could happen, Ari. So if at the Department of Energy, for example, the best climate scientists in the world issue a report on climate change that the new Secretary of Energy doesn't like, the Secretary of Energy, parenthetically, you couldn't even remember the name of the agency, or that hardliners on the Hill don't like, they could simply zero out all the salaries and punish the scientists for issuing a report telling us about the dangers of climate change. If, for example, the Republicans didn't like the fact that you've got civil servants working on women's rights at the State Department, international women's rights, what they could simply do is identify who's working on them and zero out all their salaries, punish them for their political views. It's an extremely dark, Putin-esque view of democracy and our democratic values, and it's been challenged. There was a case, and you're probably familiar with this, Ari, as an attorney, the Lovett case in 1943, where Congress did exactly this. They identified 39 federal employees who they didn't like their political views on, and they tried to fire them by zeroing out the salaries. The Supreme Court looked at it, they said, wait a second, Congress doesn't have that power. Congress can't punish people for their political views that happen to be federal employees by firing them or cutting out their salaries. Congress can't do it. It doesn't have the due process apparatus and to be able to do that. And these federal employees are entitled to due process. So this has been tested in the courts, and it's been declared unconstitutional. But if you think we're not getting back into that McCarthy era, as you pointed out at the outset of this segment, Ari, the Trump transition team has already started taking names. They've started taking names of the climate scientists at Department of Energy. They've started taking names of Department of State employees who are working on women's international rights. I mean, this is a process that's happening.
Because we're almost out of time.
Sure.
Do you view this on par with the ethics rule, and that citizens should try to press Congress on this? They have to hear about it?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even know how to equate these two things. One rule which says Congress is going to exempt itself from ethics rules and can be free to engage in all kinds of unethical behavior with very few checks. That's awful for our democracy. Another rule which says Congress can punish people if they don't conform to the ideology, the strict hardline right extremist views of the Republican Party will punish you by taking away your jobs. That's a kind of a very dark throwback to the McCarthy era, as I said. That's equally troubling in terms of our democratic values. And this is just the strict constitutionalists, the people that said they believe in the Constitution, where are they now?
Julian Epstein, you get the last word on this topic. Thank you very much. Coming up.
Now, I'm going to take the last word. Okay, Mr. Epstein mentioned something that's very important regarding the Supreme Court case where it was the attempt to target individual employees was declared unconstitutional. How the GOP would get around that today, they wouldn't target the individual employees, they would target the individual departments. Now, everybody knows that the majority of the GOP is against spending, and you have a ton of people that are absolutely against big government. So, very simple. All they need to do, and I had mentioned the Justice Department where they zero out the Civil Rights Division, allocate no money for them, or reduce their salaries to $1. EPA, same thing with the climate change scientists, zero them out to $1. Donald Trump on the campaign trail said that education and the controls of education should be passed back down to the states. So, very simple. All they do is zero out every federal employee in the Department of Education, okay, which in turn has a department in name only, but no employees because obviously everybody's going to leave. They absolutely hate the Consumer Protection Agency, so they just go in and zero out every employee's salary or bring them all down to $1. So you obviously lose that department. They can kill every single federal department that they want by reducing all the salaries down to $1 and causing all of the employees obviously to leave. This is a naked power grab. This would be a purge of epic proportions, okay? But guaranteed, even with $254 billion of waste in the Defense Department, they would not touch a single dime within the Defense Department. Now, there would probably be some kind of a clash between Trump, who would probably want them to reduce the intelligence agencies' personnel, and he's already pretty much, well, a leak has pretty much stated that's where he wants to go. And then you got the hawks in Congress who probably want to pour more money into the intelligence agencies and give them more power. But there are a lot of departments that Congress absolutely wants to get rid of, and Mike Pence whispering or talking in Trump's ear, and Steve Bannon, who also is against big government. He wants to shrink government. Actually, he wants to blow up government. Those guys whispering in Trump's ears, telling him to sign off on these things, killing these various agencies. People, it's going to be a rough 2 years. And if they, in some way, shape, manner, or form, are able to get that through and get that passed, you talking about a drag on the economy. You know, it would be ridiculous, because even in the departments that they really couldn't do anything about as far as funding is concerned, I'm talking about Health and Human Services, which I believe the food stamp program is under, highway funds, et cetera, et cetera. The funds could be there to fund the various projects, but if you kill half of the employees there, you basically create a giant paper trap or processing trap, so that people who are entitled to obtaining, help, aid, etc., would be sitting there waiting. I give you a prime example of something very small. If you own a firearm and you want to obtain a sound suppressor, silencer, okay? A couple of years ago, all you had to do, and you could go online to do this, you go online, provide the information that is necessary, and the information wasn't that great, and then also go online and pay the $200 fee, which that hasn't really gone up, and approximately 30 to 45 days later, here comes your tax stamp, you go to your firearms dealership and purchase your sound suppressor. What? Excuse me. Well, so many people were doing it that they killed the online applications in order to obtain a sound suppressor. So now you have to mail the information in along with your check. Now your check, they got no problem cashing that. You send that check in and that check is cleared your bank within 2 weeks. But it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 months in order for you to get that tax stamp back in order to purchase your silencer. Okay, and I can tell you that, because I keep track of stuff like this, the wait is getting longer. Now, I don't know how many people they have in that particular area. I believe it's tobacco and firearms. But let's say that they don't like the fact that too many silencers or class 3 and class 4 items are going out, and they decide that they need to slow that down. Well, all they have to do is cut the people that are processing those applications, reduce their salaries, a couple of them, reduce their salaries to $1. They're going to leave, obviously, because they can't survive on $1 salary. And now you just further increase the logjam and the amount of time it takes to obtain those class 3 and class 4 items. So, again, if this goes through, this will be devastating. Devastating both to individual federal workers, and it's going to be devastating to the people of America. If you don't do anything else, you damn sure need to get with your House of Representative member and your senator and let them know that you do not want them to sign off and vote for that particular item. If you don't, and it goes through, what happens next is definitely up to you.